Welcome to the Flatsome eCommerce WordPress theme tutorial. My name is Peter and today we're going to go over the famous page builder in Flatsome. A lot of people have been asking how does it really work, what's good with it, what's bad with it, and well, generally how it all fits together into Flatsome. So let's jump straight to it. The first thing you need to know is that Flatsome Page Builder does not work on posts. It works on things such as the featured items and pages. It works in a few other places, but that's generally where you're going to use it. So let's start by creating a new page. If you've seen some of my previous videos about how the page builder works and seen it in action, you know I've complained from time to time about, well, its functionality and some of the bugs. So let me show you one of the bugs here, and it's kind of annoying. First thing we're going to do is give this page a title. Awesome page. Now let's enable the page builder. Let's give it something simple, a row, and let's give it a basic image. Now let's click publish and let's see what happens. So I saved, page published, it's ready, but where's the content I just put in there? It's not here. If we disable it, nope, also not there. One of the problems that Page Builder has, it has the problem of saving things. So that's bug number one. If you're initially starting a page, make sure to update the page and publish it just once. Maybe if you make another change, publish it a second time, and only then enable Page Builder. And before you make any other changes after enabling the Page Builder, test if it actually saves something. So add a little bit of content, save it. If it shows up, you're golden. If it doesn't, you'll have to add content a second time. Because now if we add content, let's add the same thing just because we can. Let's add the image. Now we click update. See, now it saves. So that's bug number one. While this bug is kind of bad and annoying, it's not as annoying as bug number two. Well, because for bug number one, all we have to do is just remember to update and publish a page first before we start adding content. The problem with bug number two is that there's no way around it except, well, I'm going to show you what's going on. So if we click preview right now, our content comes up. So that's great. So let's change this content by adding some stuff. First, actually, what I want to do is I'm going to actually put two columns so it's easier to see. I'm going to add an image here and an image here. Now we click preview. All right, let's try clicking preview again. There we go. Now let's, below this, add a full column width. Let's add an image. I'll click preview again. Not here. Click it again. Now it is. This one, in my opinion, is just so annoying. You have to keep clicking preview twice. And it's not a quick click. It's not like a double click. It's click, wait a little bit, click again. It's really annoying. There's no way around it except to just do that or don't use the page builder, but that's not the point here. So that's bug number one, bug number two, and there's another few little mini things, nothing too bad, but when we get to those, I'll show you. For now, let's jump in on exploring the page builder, what it does, what it doesn't do, and my ideas of it. We're starting with a brand new page here to show you how it all works. So as usual, first thing, we're going to give it a title, my example title. I'm going to publish the page first so that we can actually save in the future. So now let's start exploring the page builder. First thing, obviously, if you see the regular WordPress thing, you have to click enable to enable the Flatsome Page Builder Beta. Remember, it has bugs like I just talked about, and there's a few nuances here and there because it's still in beta. They're still building this out. So what the page builder more or less works on is rows and columns. It works off a grid system to make everything run. Pretty much anything that you put in here, you really should be putting into rows, whether it's a 1 column wide row or 4 columns, you really should be putting everything into rows so it's nice and neatly organized. You don't have to, but you should. These two little bars over here represent put something above the content that's already here And this bottom one means add something below the content here. So I'm going to add one to the top, just because in the beginning, by the way, it doesn't matter if you use a top one or bottom one. It's all the same thing. I'm just going to click the top one. I'm going to add a row. I'm going to make it full width. What that means, a row is a row, left to right of content stuff. And a column is the height stuff. So here I have nothing in here. If I were to update this, it'd be just still blank. And in here is where I get to put some fun stuff, the actual content. So in this one, since there's nothing in here yet, I can't add anything above it. So I just click this inside bar. And you can see we still have this top one to add right to the top, or add this one right below this row. But in here, for now, there's only this bottom one. So we click inside the column item, and we can add sliders, banners, elements, a text being more or less the WordPress, what you see is what you get editor, an image, which is actually more or less just text with an image already added in there for you. Stuff from the WordPress WooCommerce shop, a block of code, which you can create here, a gap, which is a space up and down, so like 10 pixels extra spacing, though you can't go negative spacing, but I'll talk about that in a bit, or plain code. So we're going to start by adding sliders. What are sliders? Sliders are those things that slide content left to right, up to bottom, or kind of rotate through various images and text stuff. So let me show you an example of that actually. Here we are on the official Flatsome theme demo site. As you can see, stuff is rotating through. We have stuff here we can actually click and drag it through. What they've added here, these are the banners, which we'll talk about in a bit. And you can just rotate through. You can have a video background, you can have text, you can have stuff scroll left, right, up or down. You can pop in, bounce in, and all those fun little things. But that's what a slider is. And there's different styles and all that fun stuff, but this is the general idea. On the shortcode page on the official demo site, you can see that if you don't want to use the page builder, you can use this shortcode to use stuff. And here, that's how you more or less start one. And here's stuff you can put in there. You can use it with banners. You can use it not with banners. It's your choice. And by the way, you don't want false and true in one item. You want one or the other. Now, here's their basic slider with navigation pieces, with a dark background, with bubbly things, and we can scroll through it. This one doesn't have little navigation arrows, and this one's reversed colors, where it has dark bubbles and a white background. Now, adding sliders to our stuff, we've already clicked this button here. Now we click on slider. As you see, there's nothing in here, so well, what is that going to do for us? Well, all that so far does is add the slider element in here for us. If we click edit on the slider part, click edit, now we get to configure this slider element's basic options. We have the slider height, which we can set. We don't have to, but you can. For example, if you want one very, very thin, you can have like 100 pixels. By the way, you have to run 100 pixels. Generally for sliders, people don't make it very, very thin. They make it something like 300 or 400, sometimes 500 or 600, depending how tall you want it. For now, I'm going to leave that as blank. The infinitive slider, true or false, means are you able to scroll past it? So this one only has 2. So let me actually go back to show you what I mean. Can we keep scrolling? As you can see, it kind of just rotates around and around and around and around. That's what that means. So maybe we do. Sure. Do we want to show the bullets? Those are those little dudes. So sure, we want to show that. Slider arrows, true or false. Slider arrows are these guys. For example, we can also turn them off, like in this one. So if we want to turn it off, we go to false. In this case, we'll leave it off. Auto slide, true or false. That means as when we're here on this demo homepage, is it going to rotate by itself? So now that I've clicked on it, actually not going to, but let's refresh this page and you'll see it auto rotating. Loads the content and then whoosh, it goes to the next item, just like that. Navigation hover is, do we want to always show this navigation? And here, for example, you don't always show the navigation, only when we hover. That's what it is. See, I have my mouse here, it shows the things, but if I remove my mouse from the slider, the navigation things go away. Sometimes you want it off. I personally like it only to show it on hover. The color, we only have two choices, dark or light. If it's on light, it's going to be not this one. It's going to be, where's that? I want to show you. Sliders. On light, it's going to be an off-white color like that. If we click it on dark, it's going to be the dark one, just like on the front page. Columns, well, how many items do you want in here? 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. 3 sounds like a good number. And we want to offset the content from the top of the slider. Sometimes, and as they say, if you're using a slider on a page where the page goes behind the navigation bar, for example, well, then you'll probably want to offset it by however high your header is. For most of things that I do, I leave it as default or nothing. So let's click Save. Now we want to add content in here. So while we can't add any type of piece of content, we can add some really, really fun things. We can add banner, one of my favorites, the banner grid, an image, which as we've talked about is more or less just a text version with an image already added, or logo. So let's start off and talk about the banner and the image. The logo I don't really use, not for slider unless you make it really thin, but so that's another story. But a banner, as we've seen, it's this stuff. It's nothing special. We'll go through this, by the way. We'll just click on one. I like this one. We don't have an image in here, so we'll want to go to our media library and pick out an image quickly. So I'm going to add my banner. Select. I'm not going to touch any of the other stuff. And I'm going to leave this content fine as it is here. Click preview once. As usual, nothing. Click preview twice. Sweet. Now, you might be asking, wait a minute, why is this super thin? Simple. Because we said number of columns in there. So let's, by the way, so now you see bug number 3. If you try to edit something, settings don't save here. So let's reset these settings. Just the basic stuff. Columns, I'll leave it at default. Now save. Preview, preview. There we go, see? One column. If you have more columns in there, well, then you're gonna have more things sliding through here. Generally, you're gonna want one. You can play around with more, but then you can't, of course, use a big banner like that because it'll scroll through a bunch at a time, which you can do. Or you can use the banner grid to show a few things at once. Personally, I like one thing at a time so I can call them to click on one main call to action at a time. That's my personal preference. And now you get to experience bug number 4. So I'm going to add a second item to the slider. I'm going to add an image. Which image? Well, I previously went ahead and picked one of my images. Click select. I'm going to click full. Just add a drop shadow just because we can. Give it a default link. Pull down. Don't worry about that just yet. Click save. Now, preview once, preview twice. Great. I have 2 items. So this is going to be pretty fun, right? Well, let's see what happens if we go to the next slide. It disappeared. Isn't this fun? We can sort of see the navigation here, but that's all. The image thing just doesn't work, which is kind of sad. So what can we do about it? Sadly, not much. What we can do, sort of, is add a logo. This is kind of special because generally this one is used to show logos on a thin little bar if you want to scroll through all of them. Let's add a nice little logo title. Logo 1, very effective. Padding left, right, up, and down, and the height. Just we kind of have a big image. Let's add 500 px just because we can. Once, twice. You can sort of see the image that way, but that's about it. So for sliders, you're more or less stuck with logos, sort of, and banners and banner grids. So let's get rid of our slider since we don't need it anymore. Now let's add a banner. Banners have a whole lot of options. As 2 vertical ones, especially if you're going to use some thin columns, especially on a slider, or columns in a page, or if you want to have, for example, 2/3 and 1/3 columns, you'd probably want to use one of these for the 1/3 columns, the thinner one. The rest can be used almost everywhere. Bigger ones, obviously they're kind of wider, so you don't want to use them on a very thin column like the sidebar or a 1/3 width, or sorry, the 1/4, it really won't fit. The 1/3, maybe. The half or the full is probably your best bet for these. The 1/3, like I said, maybe depending on how you're doing stuff, it might fit. So how do we actually use a banner? Well, the stuff you see in the middle, the buttons and the text, that's just content. What these sliders are that you see here, they're pre-made templates for the sliders that say where the content is, what the colors are. So they are essentially all the same except just for settings. So let's take this one because I like it. And it's pretty much made for us already. If we click edit, we can set the banner height, very important. Background image, of course, I'm gonna add our image. If you want somebody to be able to click on the banner and the image part actually, and take somebody somewhere, so add a link there. You also have the options, do you want responsive and how much you want to set it to, where do you want the items to be? And this is like I was talking about, these are the settings. Here's the colors, the animation, the box width of the content. Where's the content going to be? Where's it positioned? This is where the text is in relation to the content area. The text box, where it is, where it's on the top right, center, left, right, etc., etc. If you want to color, because you remember one of those banners had a black background, or for the content, that would be here. And same thing with the padding for that. Parallax is one of those where it scrolls slower than what you're scrolling or faster. So it kind of seems like the image is moving. Effects, if you want an effect for the whole banner. And if you're going to use a video, that all goes here, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, we're just going to use these settings, click save. And now here's the content. Just click in the content, and that's where we can edit it. And seriously, there's nothing all too special about this content. If you look at the code, it's just a line, a header 3, header 1, header 2, and a button. Well, that's it. That's where you can edit all the text. My text here. It really is nothing special around here. It's customized, so let's say headline. Oh yeah, and it definitely is super easy to change. The only problem I've had is kind of editing these buttons, because if we click in here, or actually let me just click normally in here, I start typing, yeah, that happens. What you can try to do is select it, then type. Also doesn't really work. So I undo my work there. I go into the text mode. That's when I change the button text. Then I click visual, and then it's linked. On the plus side, at least you can change what it links to. Because of course, if it's a button, the button needs to lead somewhere. So here, at least in the visual editor, I can click anywhere on the button, click insert link, and say where it's going to go. Click save, preview once, twice. And now instead of a slider for stuff, we just have this. Now if I click on the text, it'll take me to the next page. If I click the button, it'll take me to the page I linked to. And that's that. You can see a nice little pretty image. And of course, like I said, there are different styles of banners. You can have all these styles. Remember when I said I can change the background? That's that one. So let me just show you how that one works. If we go to layout, see? Text background. And where's it positioned, etc., etc. So let me put an image in here and leave the default content to show you how that one works. See? That's it. There's nothing too complicated about banners. You just got to pick one that works for you. And by the way, all of this is all settable in the Flatsome settings. But if you really want something strange set or different, you know, this is just the WordPress regular editor that you're used to. So I can set a color here if I want. Let's give this one a color as well. Let's say green. This one, well, let's give it an underline. Let's not do that one. What else can we do? That'll be fun. We can give it a link to there. Or if you really want to play around, you can jump in here and add your custom code right in here. And that's it. There's nothing all too complicated about this stuff. So let me show you again. If I double click, There we go. See? Color text. That's all there is. If you don't want the fading in stuff, by the way, you'd have to go in here, go into text, and remove fade in left, right, and animated. This is all this stuff is found in the documentation over there, and I'll be getting to that in another video. So let's click preview twice. See, all there is. Now, let me show you something fun. If I wanted 2 banners on a page, I can't put them like this. This just looks really weird. Or maybe if I had an image that kind of runs one into the next, maybe. But for the most part, none of us are going to have that. So I need to add a gap in here. So let me show you how to add a gap. So I can't add something right in between these guys, right? So let's go to the bottom. Let's click add something. We want to add a gap. Now I can click and drag this gap because I can click and drag and rearrange anything inside a row column. So I can move this one down if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave it inside the column because you can move stuff out of elements. Leave the gap here, and by default, it's at a height of 30 pixels, which is all right for almost many things by default. Click preview twice. See, we got a nice little handy gap, which makes things look a lot better. Now, note that if, let's say, there already is a gap between these two, just because of some other content or your stylings that you've put in, and you really want to make this gap smaller, no, this one is not going to do that because I've tried. You can't have a minus 30 pixel height because this works on height, not margins, if you know what margins are in CSS. So you can't have a negative height, so you can't bring things closer, but you can make them farther away if you want. Let's put 50 pixels, show you. See, a little bit wider. That's a gap. I want to show you now what the text and the code and block stuff do. So I'm actually going to delete all my slider stuff from here because we don't need it. Oops, delete a little bit too much. Got a full column there. So let's add in here a text element. Text element is, as it sounds, a text element. We just get the usual WordPress, what you see is what you get editor. Nothing magical here. That's it. You can add stuff just like you would normally do when creating a page normally without the page builder. That's what this is. So I'm going to leave that there, nothing special. The image is, see, the what you see is what you get editor with an image already included. So nothing magical here. Now, the fun parts get for the block and the code. Block is if we have a block, and we talked about blocks in another video, you can add a block and it'll be automatically put in your code stuff there. Now, if you want your custom code, whether it's HTML, CSS, or short codes, you can put it here and it will make a space just for that specific short code. Even if it's a short code for Flatsome, and if you're using one of the Flatsome short codes, you don't need to use this. But what if you have, for example, a MailChimp plugin that requires a short code, or for Aweber, or for another gallery plugin, or whatever it might be? You can add the short code here instead of the text area stuff, and the short code will just be its own little item in here and won't be touched nor bothered by Flatsome. That's what it's for. The two remaining important things are the elements and the shop stuff. So again, let's delete this stuff so we can have a nice clean screen to go through. Phew, almost deleted the column again. So let's add an element. The elements, these are the fun interactive things within Flatsome. We have a banner grid. So by the way, here we can add just a single banner, or we can add a banner grid. We can add blog posts, title, which I love titles, they're pretty fun. Buttons, and we have a lot of options for buttons. Follow icons, I generally don't use those in here. Share icons, slightly different. A map, really fun to do. Your map content is the stuff that's the text that's going to be around there. And if you want to edit where the map is going to show stuff, well, you got to get the latitude and longitude from the Google map. Next up, for the map, we have the message box. Message boxes are those error type things that we see pop up once in a while if something error happens or a promotional message. It's one of these things. You don't really have much of a background or stuff. You do have a few options in here. You can set a background, text color, etc., but those are your only real options. See? It's kind of like a mini banner, more or less, to to a degree, but that's not what they're made for. Let's delete that and show you what else we can do with that message box. As you can see, you have different colors and all those things in here. So let me show you how to do that. I actually personally wish that this was exactly like one of those error message boxes, like, hey, congratulations, you got this, or error, you entered your wrong information. I wish that's what it was. It's sort of like that, but a little bit like a mini banner, more or less. But background color, that's where you set the background. Either you put an image like I did before, or you set a color in hex code. What are the color hex codes? Well, that's where it can get a little bit complicated. If you want to Google, for example, you can pull up the material colors and it'll show you those colors. So let me actually show you that. If we go to google.com, and if you love material colors, and I kind of do, so we can search for Google material design colors. They actually have a whole page about their color usage. These types of things are the colors. So let's add a bright red box. So pound, select, text color, light. What do they recommend? They recommend light text color. Cool. So we have our text, we have our button, click preview twice. See, we have a bright red message. So that's how that one works. Again, like I said, I wish this were a little bit thinner, but that's what we got. After message box, we have an accordion, which is very similar to vertical tabs, and those things. The accordion is if you click on it, it'll expand or retract content in there, so you can have some really not tall content. If somebody clicks on item 1, it'll expand it and show them. They click on the other one, item 1 closes and item 2 expands. Tabs is tabs left to right, and vertical tabs is same like tabs except down. Testimonials are, well, kind of self-explanatory. You got ratings if you want them, the text, person who it is, and their image. You can change colors a little bit as well. Team members, you can just show people left to right. Featured box, this one honestly is a little bit weird for me because the featured box, so let me show you what that one does with nothing in it for now. That's what it is. Kind of like banner stuff, except not much there. If we click edit, we can add a title, my title, the subtitle, text size. So let's make biggest. Tooltip, if we mouse over, what is it going to show? Link, let's give it a link of nothing. Let's give it an icon. The icon is, well, an icon you can put before or after. So top left, top center, and left. Let's add top center. Icon, well, again, either an image or a hex code. So I'm going to give it a nice indigo color. Pound color, select, icon width, border size, just because, color, animate, fade up, down. So let's see what it shows there. See, that's what it is. You gotta pick your own icon. It really is a little bit annoying over there. But now if you click on this featured box, the title, subtitle, or the icon, it'll take us to the page we linked to. So if you're gonna put an icon here, not like one of those icons, but an actual image icon, you can set it right here. And that's what you're gonna use it for. So basically, you wouldn't wanna use it on a full width thing. You'd want to use this on a 4th column, or if you're squishing it down even more, that's what it's really gonna be good for. After the featured box, which like I said, I don't really use it as much because it's kind of weird, we have featured items. And that is, again, remember, this is nothing to do with a shop. That's all to do with featured items, which I covered in a previous video. Pricing tables. Ooh, everybody loves pricing tables. That's some of the great things we see. I'm going to show you that on their page because they have a really good example of that. Price tables. This stuff, it is super awesome. I love this because then you can easily say, hey, here is my offering, buy now. I think it is really, really great. You can have 4 columns at most. You can try to squeeze in more, but you'll have to figure that out yourself because Flatsome doesn't support 5 columns. It supports 1, 2, 3, or 4 columns. So 4 columns at most. And I think this is really, really cool. And by the way, this is a collapsed style. They have all those settings in there and non-collapsed. I think it's super, super, super cool. And same with this one. I think it's super cool. I love this. It's super easy to use. And it'll take you through that. The scroll to, again, I don't use this one. Some people have been using it because it's kind of interesting sometimes. It's one of those, if you were to click on this thing, it'll scroll you down to that thing on the page. That's what that is. I don't use this as much, and not too many people do. The search box, this one I really don't understand, because most people, if they're going to use a search option, they're either going to put it in the menu or here in the sidebar. Generally, people don't put it in the middle of the content. You can, but that's not where most people use it, so I don't use that one. Ninja Forms, I personally don't use because I don't use Ninja Forms. I use Gravity Forms. So only if you use Ninja Forms, use this one. A lightbox is if you want to pop up item. So let me show you that. Lightbox. Lightbox can get a little bit wonky. It kind of encompassed a few things, so sorry about that. Element lightbox. So we have our lightbox link. What's going to go in there? So button text, button, lightbox, style. By the way, this link has to be something like this. What do I mean by that? Remember when I said scroll to, if you click on the link inside a page, it'll scroll you down or up in that page? That's what this is, more or less. It'll scroll-ish to the lightbox, the pop-up item, and then it'll show it. How do you want it to be seen? By the way, the button style, primary, secondary, alert, white bordered. You can go through all these and play with that. Button size, I generally like normal. And target, if you're going to open up a new window to somewhere, is it going to be opened up in the same window, new window, or things like that? Generally, don't play with target. Now here's where we get to actually edit the content of the lightbox. The ID, this one has to be exactly the same as the ID for this one here. Not the pound. You have to put the pound, by the way, but this stuff here. So that's what that one is. How wide is it going to be? Padding inside. Pretty simple so far. And your content. You can put an image here. You can do whatever you want here, really. So let's see how it looks. Click preview twice. Link, button, link. Sweet. Here's our content. Button, sweet. Same thing. So if you want to put an image in here, you can. Text, short codes, because we're just playing out the regular old editor and we can't even put short codes inside here. So that's kind of fun. So that's what that one is. So that one's not too magical. This one, Lightbox link, is just a text item with a link to Lightbox. I personally prefer buttons usually because buttons are cool. So let's delete all of this stuff so we can continue on. The last thing is logo. Now, the logo one is a little bit weird for me because it's just a single logo item. So I'm going to add my huge image over here. So let me get the link. This is not what you want to do. You don't want a huge image for a logo. You're going to want something like a 50 pixel high item for your logo. Logo being like a little icon thing here, your company logo, that type of thing. I'm going to click save there, and that's our only option. Click preview twice. And see our logo. We can put one next to the other. Where is this going to be a good idea? In a slider. Or if you just want to showcase thing one next to another, a nice little orderly grid, because everything's going to be the same height and width, more or less. So you can always put one right next to the other, and that's how it's just going to work. So let me show you what I mean by that. Element logo. Let's add my item in there. Don't change anything else. Click preview. See, so if you want them kind of ordered by themselves here, left to right, and then eventually down, you can do that. For example, I've worked with these 50 different partners, so you can put the logo of each one, which will work pretty well, or you can put it in the slider item. Actually, that's what we've done. In parts, we actually have used this sort of, but mostly we just use the slider thing. The only thing really left to talk about is the shop items. Shop items are more or less separated into two major categories. The Flatsome built-in shortcodes and the stuff built into WooCommerce. Related, but not exactly the same. Featured items, or should I say featured products, Again, that's different than featured items. I know the words are a bit confusing. Featured products are products that we specifically set to be featured. Best sellers, kind of self-explanatory, things that are selling the best, generally by sell count. On sale, products that are only marked to be on sale when you give a sale price in the product. Latest, the latest products of everything in all the categories. This is where the custom category, where we can show specific items from just the category by chronological order, for example. The flipbook and lookbook I'll get to in just a second, because I want to talk about the category slider and the category list, and then of course the category grid. Category slider is, well, a slider of the categories. Or actually, if we leave it blank, it's going to show all the categories. And it will slide left to right, banner style, category stuff. So I can click all categories, no subcategories, all categories, which would be everything, or a specific category. If I click on categories, it's going to go through and slide through the categories. If instead I pick a specific category, what it's going to do is slide through the products in that category. How many? 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, however many you want, probably 4, maybe 8. Style, these are fun styles we can play with. Normal is probably what you're generally going to want, or just leave it on default, same thing. The type, whether you want it in a grid style or a slider style. But by the way, that's different than the grid category stuff. Columns, from left to right, how many items at most do you want to show? This is not the number of items, but how many items can be shown at once. Generally, people leave it at 4. An offset if you want to start at a different number. That's what that is. The category list, similar thing, minus the slidey. The category grid is something really cool because I'm going to show you on our own store. That is what, more or less, our front page is. This is a banner grid, but think of a banner grid just for categories. Well, that's what that is. Now the default WooCommerce stuff is you can add an add to cart button, a specific product by SKU, multiple products, recent products, and I don't know why they have this one here and this one because it's kind of the same. I'll be showing them a little bit different, but they're more or less the same, so I don't really know why they want it here. But you can make this whole page look like the checkout page or the cart page or the My Account page or the order tracking page. Generally, we already have those pages set, and if they're not set, we can use it here. But at that point, you don't really need to be using the page builder. You can just, well, generally, actually, for a checkout, you want the checkout to be just left alone. Generally, same thing for the cart. You can put stuff around there, but I haven't really seen too many people putting stuff on the checkout page, especially the checkout page. On the cart page, actually, if you've ever gone to Amazon.com and bought something from there, they actually have items on both the checkout page and the cart page. On the cart page are stuff like, hey, here's something else you can add. On the checkout page is, hey, you just bought this thing. Do you want to buy another one? Something very, very similar. Basically upsells. For us starting out, it being on its own little page is probably the best way to go. So that's the overview of the page builder. There are some issues with it, like I mentioned, but you're going to have to kind of just deal through them like everybody else, especially with the saving issues. I want to edit the settings. They're not going to be here and all those things. Yeah, we're kind of stuck living through them. Some items actually do get saved. Not this one. Once in a while, you'll be lucky and their settings will be in here. Sometimes not, or actually most of the time not, which really bugs me. So if you're going to be changing something, make sure you know. Maybe you want to make a duplicate and then edit the one you want to edit so you can remember what the settings were and then delete the duplicate. That's what I usually do. But that's an overview of the page builder. If you're going to use it, I almost always use it because it's a lot easier in my opinion than not using the page builder. Currently I can't disable because I'm in the middle of editing stuff. But if I quickly add some text, this is what you're normally going to see if you're not using the page builder. This stuff. I do find it a little bit more cumbersome because I'm a visual guy. I like to see especially the feature box, the banners and sliders. I kind of like seeing what's going on. But at this point also, this stuff, you see all the stuff here, you can't not save. So pick your battles. I choose to use the page builder because it's generally easier for me to work with, easier to rearrange stuff. And sometimes when it's not working, then I make sure I save, I disable it, and then work in this mode. So again, pick your battles. That's the page builder. If you liked everything you heard in this tutorial, subscribe, check out my other videos. More importantly, this was the basic video. I'd love to learn more of the advanced items that go into the page builder and want to see live examples, best uses, how to use it all, and me telling you how all the settings work, what the caveats are, what you should watch out for. Check out the advanced course by clicking the advanced course button in the description, where I talk about all that and much, much more. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and remember, subscribe. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you really enjoyed this course and want to learn more, you can check out the advanced course by clicking here. In the advanced course, we go over much more of this, go really in depth, and go over a lot of topics that we can't go over in the basic course. If you love what you've seen here and want to get more free videos, click subscribe over here, or click right here to get more videos. Thanks! So if you've loved everything you've heard in this tutorial, oh well, maybe the bug didn't work this time. So let's click preview again. Now it works. Oh. So that you can, well, show the next one, so the next, hey.